Hey guys, Shakara here, bringing you another Bard Talk video today, and today we're going to talk about CC. So, the reason we're going to talk about CC today is I think there's a lot of misconceptions on how Bards should be using CC, and I know since LDoN came out, you guys are going to be grouping a lot more, and Bards CCing is a big part of Bard play in groups, and now there's a bunch of group content before, we were only really raiding. I think a lot of people try to make too much of a comparison to enchanters most of the time, because enchanters are kind of the main CC class, and a lot of the Bard abilities act a lot like the enchanter abilities, and it's true they do, but because of our kit and because of the way those abilities actually work, there's a lot of subtle differences in the way we want to be using them. So let's load up some CC abilities here, and here I'm in Velcators right now because it's one of the better spots to kind of show you guys this stuff since everything kind of works here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the difference between Enchanter CC and Bard CC, and kind of the differences between the classes. So first, Enchanters are a caster class. They cast buffs, and their role basically is to support the group, a lot like a Bard, but in a very different way. So even though enchanters have, hastes and mezzes and charms just like we do, they can use all of their abilities at the same time. Not in the same time as then they can cast them all at the same time, but they can use their whole kit at the same time, and bards can't. We have a large kit, but it is limited to what we can do all at once. So what I mean by that is an enchanter can dump all of their buffs out, right? They buff everybody up, so everyone's getting haste. Everyone has haste and mana regen and all that good enchanter stuff for 4 hours, and then they participate in the group by mezzing and charming, and doing their support role in the group. A bard, every time we attempt to mezz a mob, we have to give up something, right? An enchanter doesn't have to give up something. So when I mezz a mob, I have to give up one of the buffs that I'm melding, or one of the debuffs that I'm melding, right? So if I'm singing a slow, right, enchanters have a slow as well. If I'm singing a slow and I start to mezz, I have to all of a sudden maybe give up that slow, right? So while the enchanter is getting to basically mezz for free in a way, right, their cost is mana, our cost is actions, right? And so mezzing, while it makes a lot of sense to just always mezz things as an enchanter, it doesn't always make that much sense as a bard. And I think some people don't quite understand how important this is. So we're going to do a little example here real quick. I'm going to pull one of these mobs, and I'm going to beat it up, and we're just going to kind of get an idea of how long it takes me to fight a mob. And I'm going to kind of show you what the basic what you're basically contributing to the group. So I'm going to run some basic kind of melody here that I might sing in a group. All right, I'm going to check my parse now, just kind of get an idea of what my damage was. Okay, so I did 228 DPS to that mob there. All right, so that's going to be kind of my contribution to the group outside of the buffs that they're receiving, right? So they're also receiving Overhaste and War Song. In addition, they're getting regen. So I'm contributing around 228 DPS to the group with these things. Now, let's say I have to mezz. All right, so we're gonna get a nice juicy pull here. I think if I pull these guys, I should get a nice. All right, there we go. Right. So we're gonna say, oh, I got 4 mobs. I got a mezz. All right, so I'm gonna do my typical mezz thing. All right, we're gonna run around and mezz these. Alright, and as you guys can see, I can keep all these mobs mezzed pretty easily. However, right, I just gave up all that damage, all the regen, and everything I was doing before, right, to mez these 4 mobs. An enchanter, they could be giving you their buffs, their regen, and everything, and mezzing these 4 mobs, right? So while it looks on the surface like we might be doing the same thing, we're not, right? This is costing my group a lot more to do this. And then, right, if they break, that's even worse. If they resist, it's even worse, like that one. So that's a little example there of the difference, right, between the enchanter and the bard and how their CC works. So then as a bard, right, it's not as simple as an enchanter, right? We have to ask ourselves, well, when is it a good idea to mez? And after some thought and some theory crafting and some practice, this is kind of what I feel like you get when you get the most out. A lot of it has to do with the difficulty of the mob. If I'm fighting light blues like this, right? I mean, these mobs aren't really much of a threat to me. They're not going to hurt me. They're not going to kill me very quickly. So I don't have to worry about my group taking the damage, right? They can take on a little bit of the damage at first. They're going to get slow and they're going to be easy. In this case, if I ever get a lot of mobs, instead of stopping my DPS to mez, I want to increase my DPS more. So I want to do things like load up my nuke. And if I pull 4 mobs, I want to get rid of them as fast as possible, right? Because as you'll see in the title of this video, the catchphrase, death is the best CC, right? A dead mob does the same amount of damage as a mezzed mob, and what's even better about a dead mob is that they're never going to do damage to you again, and you get experience for them. So right, say I pull these 4 mobs, like, oh Jesus, I got 4 mobs, alright. So instead, I want to go, alright, I need to reduce the numbers here a bit, ease up on the group, so I'm going to nuke. Right, and in this time, I'm doing a lot of damage, and I'm helping my group get rid of all of the extra ads. And this will be even easier when you're in a group because you won't have aggro. I'm having to juggle some aggro here. Right, and so in just the time it would have taken me to mez all 4 mobs there, right? I think I casted about 4 dirges there. The time it would take me to mez all 4 mobs there, I already eliminated 2, and that wasn't even like super efficient either, right? Like that one didn't get hit with the rest of them, and it was a little slow too. In a group, it would have been much faster because I wouldn't have had to worry about aggro. So I could have mezzed 4 mobs, or I could kill 2 mobs, right? Obviously, which one sounds a lot better, right? Killing mobs. So oftentimes, burning like a wizard is better than mezzing like an enchanter. And the cool thing about a bard is we get to do both. And so while we have abilities like other classes, they don't always operate the same way. The next example I'm going to give is like the charm. So unfortunately, right now, charming is kind of dead because they haven't really given us a decent charm. I mean, this charm is the best one we have. You get it at level 64, and I think it only goes up to like level 57, which is pretty sad. In about 4 months, we will get a real charm in Omens of War. I think it's at level 69, I want to say. And it will be up to level 68. So we'll be able to, and from there on out, we'll get charms. And so the cool thing about charms, oh, hold on, Desty's talking shit. Anyways, back to the charm. So the reason charm is so good is because it's kind of like the best of both worlds, right? You get a little bit of burn, and you get a little bit of CC. So hold on, let me kill this guy real quick. So say I come over here and I pull, I pulled 2 mobs. Right? It's a great opportunity. Okay, so I pulled 2 mobs. Load up a charm. Bam, I hit 1. I get him to attack his friend. So now, right, I've successfully, in a way, CC'd 2 mobs here in half the time as it would take me to mez, right? I cast 1 3-second song. I've, in essence, CC'd 2 mobs, right? This mob is an attacking group, and this mob is an attacking group. In addition, this mob is now beating on his friend, and he's beating on his friend. So I'm getting both the damage of the mobs instead of attacking the group on the mobs we want to kill. And this is another difference in the way Enchanter and Bard Charm is different, or Enchanter and Bard spells are different, is that, you know, Enchanter's Charm is kind of like this group project, right? You guys, as a group, band together and you mallow the pet, you debuff the pet, you buff them up with other buffs to create this kind of the super mob that is a huge DPS boon to the group. For Bards, it's much more of just a CC tool. It's a temporary way to disable a mob, or mobs in some cases, and add a little extra damage, or sometimes even a lot extra damage. Charming was really great back in Classic when you could charm mobs of your level. Now it's kind of meh. Maybe when Omens comes out and we get our new charm, and I'll be able to play around with it and see if it's still as good as it used to be. But this works with, even if, say, here, I'm going to pull like a bunch of mobs here. Pull all these, all these. Let me break my charm. Alright, so I got quite the mess here, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to charm one. And boom, look. I've just disabled 5 mobs with one song, right? They're beating on their friend, the social aggro causing them to all beat up on each other. And now I'm getting a bunch of DPS, and none of them are attacking my group, right? And then my group can pull maybe 1 or 2 off and fight them while this is happening. Now, this is much more temporary, right? When this mob breaks, they're not going to go, they're going to get pissed at us, depending on how much aggro they've built up, right? Because his aggro is going to get wiped. So even if I recharm it, it might not work as well. But usually you can disable a lot of mobs, right, with one charm. This is why charm was such a great CC tool back in the day, because you could do stuff like this. Now, the other thing though to think about, real quick, this is why you'll hear the term swarm kiting a lot. There's a tactic where bards would basically just do that thing I just showed you, and then when the mob got low, they would break the charm and then kill the pet. So basically, you're not DPSing, but you're using like 7 mobs DPS to kill the mobs, which is a lot more than most groups can push out, and that's how bards used to be able to solo really well. Can't really do it that much right now because of how weak the mobs are compared to what you can charm. So it's not as good. I gotta be careful I don't nuke myself here and kill myself. That would be embarrassing. I'd definitely leave it in the video though if I did, so you can bet that I'm not afraid to look stupid in front of everybody. So yeah. So that was charm, that was mez, and burning. So those are kind of like the ways you got to think about crowd control. Am I going to get more benefit out of killing the mobs fast? Am I going to get more benefit out of mezzing the mobs? Or am I going to get more benefit out of charming the mobs? And right now, charm is not a thing. But let's talk a little about when to mez the mobs. If the mobs are tough, like if you're in Plane of Fire and you pull like 5 Field 2 trash, right? If they hit your tank, they're probably just going to one-shot him, because those mobs are much tougher. So in that case, yeah, you're gonna want to keep those things mezzed. You're gonna want to drop the songs that you got, and you're gonna want to mez, because you're mitigating so much damage that it's worth it. When you're running an LDoN, or you're XPing, maybe in a tier 2 or tier 3 pop zone, something that's significantly lower than your own level, you don't need to worry about mezzing. You're probably going to be good enough singing something like an AoE slow, right? You're going to get a little damage out of the dot component, and you're going to slow all the mobs, and that's going to be enough for your healers to keep up. You only really want to be mezzing if you're going to be taking more damage than what your healers can keep up with. And this is also, dependent on your group, right? If you're with a super uber group, maybe you don't even need to mez in Plane of Fire. And if you're, struggling around with some half-geared alts in an LDoN, a hard LDoN, then maybe you do need to mez. So it's much more about the mob's difficulty, whether you should mez or burn, rather than the amount of mobs you're dealing with. Because when you're dealing with weak mobs, burning them down is often going to yield better results. You're going to be able to erase those mobs quickly, get them out of the way, and not have to worry about them, compared to trying to juggle all those messes. Especially, if you start pulling more than 4. Like, if you get a real nasty pull, like with 6, sure, Dirge can't hit all of them, but you're going to, before you run out of mana, you're going to kill a couple of those mobs. They're not going to be able to, unless they're crazy MR for some reason, but usually they're not. You're gonna kill some of those mobs, and it's better than mezzing them. So just remember that just because you have the same abilities as another class doesn't mean they interact the same way. And know when burning mobs down is better than mezzing mobs. So yeah, that's my little talk for today. Hope you liked the examples I showed you, and I'll be back for another one soon. See you guys.